Hey everyone, I wanted to make a quick video going over a question that I get a lot from clients, which is how can you tell if content that's hidden behind a tab or an accordion or a dropdown, how can you tell if that content is going to be indexed by Google? Can Google crawl the content, or if it's hidden, are we going to have some type of an SEO issue? So I'm going to take a look at this Health Coach Toolkit page here where we have, some tabs. And when the page first loads, all we see is the content that's on this active tab here. The quick launch and the 30-day trial, these are actually hidden. So how can we tell if we're going to have an SEO issue? Well, what I would do is I would just find something that was being loaded in one of these tabs. And then I would right click and I would hit view page source. And what I'm going to look for is I'm going to search for this this headline here in the code. So if it shows here, then I can tell that it's being crawled correctly, going to be crawled correctly by search engines. We're not going to have an SEO problem. And I can see it here in this HTML code because this is what the search engine actually sees. So even though the content behind these tabs is hidden until you click on it, the search engine is still seeing it because it's a loading in the actual code of the page. The same thing would apply here. For instance, if I wanted to, search for something that was under a dropdown or an accordion here, I would just hit view page source and then I can search for this content and I can see that it is actually loading in the HTML. Even though it's hidden, it's loading. So we're good to go on this front. This content is going to be loaded by search engines and crawled correctly, even though users might not be able to see it. So it's a little more uncommon to find content that is loaded dynamically or hidden that is not going to be indexed and crawled by a search engine with no problems. That is not commonly found in smaller websites. That's usually an issue when you get up to major websites and people are performing complex searches and filtering and all of that. Like think of like Airbnb or eBay or Amazon. You've got lots of different options that are being selected. So in that case, you do have to look closer at like a technical SEO thing to see if content is going to be indexed. But I've got an example actually on this blog where there's like an hourly rate calculator here. I want to show you how even though content sometimes might dynamically appear on a page, it's not actually going to be indexed by Google. So if I just put in like some information here to run this calculator, hit calculate, you can see that to me, I can see this base hourly rate, and then it's given me a dynamic number here for my hourly rate based on what I've put in here. Now, if I go and I search the source code of this for base hourly, then what I can see is actually that the information, the number that it spit out to me, it's not loading in the HTML. So I see this base hourly rate, and then where the number is, which should be right here, should be $345.83. It's actually not showing. So in this case, let's say this were some like really sensitive SEO information, or we had some keyword that we wanted it to show. Well, in this case, that content is actually not going to be crawled by Google. It's not going to be indexed because it's not loading in the HTML. It's not rendering in the HTML. So a search engine is not going to see this. So there are some exceptions. Again, this is something that's very technical from an SEO perspective to uncover. And with that being said, I don't recommend putting very important keywords, very important information like H1s in drop downs or something that's hidden and has to be revealed. So I would never recommend doing that. Again, for style purposes and layout and design, we do oftentimes use these types of elements, but we're careful not to like include core SEO on page information in them because there's some arguments that say Google doesn't really, prioritize that type of content. So if you're willing to put it in a dropdown or something, maybe it doesn't have the same priority. I don't know. I don't have a ton of data on that, but for the most part, most of our clients are going to have stuff like this, where it's just dropdowns, accordions and whatnot, tabs, and this type of information. If you can view it in the page source, then it's going to be crawlable by Google.